my first ever job, like you said, I was 12 years old, and it was at the Newfoundland Herald. And my uncle was the graphic designer at the time, and it was my job.
Cleary, great guy.
Shannon Cleary,
Yeah.
yes. All my music taste comes from Shannon, from spending time at the Herald, and he would just have music playing there all the time. But it was my job at that time. Old Newfoundland Heralds were kind of kept in boxes and stacked away and archived, but they weren't yet digitalized. So it was my job to take the old covers out of the boxes, scan them, and some of them were so old, I mean, they went back decades. So it was my job to scan them and then get rid of, any little tears or anything like that. I'd Photoshop them out. So
nice.
It was a really cool summer just to see all the evolution of the Herald and the way the ads used to be and the news used to be, and doing a different Princess Diana or Elvis cover every year. It was a lot of fun, and it was that actually that. After working at the Newfoundland Herald, I knew I always wanted to continue to work for the Sterling family in Newfoundland broadcasting, and I went away to journalism school with that in mind to come back to NTV because I just enjoyed it so much, and there's so much lore around the company that your grandfather built, Jeff Sterling, and it's just a place that I wanted to be.
Oh, we're so lucky to have you. And I want to know what you saw as the evolution of the Herald, because you're right, it changed a lot. It started in 1946, and back then, my grandfather, as you mentioned, Jeff Sterling, told the story of buying a used printing set from Joey Smallwood that was located on Duckworth Street above India Gate, where that restaurant is now. There was a little, attic type space, not very luxurious. And he would hand crank out 10 or 15,000 copies of the Herald with movable block type. And the last part of the story is he said he bought it used, so a couple of the S's were missing. So beyond writing the whole magazine cover to cover, doing all the sales, organizing the distribution of the magazine, he had to hand crank them out 15,000 at a time with a couple S's missing for the headlines. So you must have seen, by digitizing those archives, the evolution of the idea of this magazine.
Absolutely. It was just fascinating to see, especially when you're looking at advertisements. Like there was one about, I remember I had to touch one up, it was a shaving ad, and they were still using the straight razor.
Oh my gosh.
Which was just fascinating. And there are so many stories that come out of the Newfoundland Herald that, I don't even know if they're true or not, but they're just so cool. Like,
Right.
rural towns across the province, because this is such a big island, and hearing that the Newfoundland Herald, for some communities, used to just be airdropped down and parachuted into the towns.
Isn't that cool? Right onto the ice,
yeah.
for the sealers or whomever.
Which is the coolest thing ever. And when you talk about the Newfoundland Herald, you also have to talk about Captain Atlantis and Captain Newfoundland and Captain Canada and all these really cool comic strips that are just amazing. And one line that always stuck with me was the old "To thine own self be true."
The Captain Newfoundland motto, the
Yeah.
credo. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, originally from Jesus and Shakespeare, but yeah, today's audience knows it from Captain Newfoundland. This above all, to thine own self be true.
Yeah, and I just find that so fascinating that in Newfoundland media, what Jeff Sterling was able to do, and it's continued to be done here, is there's a little mix, a little sprinkling of spirituality in there that can even kind of go unnoticed, but it was just so cool, like I said, as a 12-year-old, to just kind of soak all that in and be reading that about Captain Newfoundland and Captain Atlantis and I don't know, just have these subliminal messages hit me that, that there's a little deeper meaning here, which I was just, it still kind of touches me today.